Okay, welcome to Middle East Monitor's show. We welcome Omar Abu Layla. He is the CEO of the Syrian opposition news network Deir Ezzor 24, which has correspondents on the ground in northeastern Syria. He is also an expert on the Syrian conflict and security and political dynamics. Welcome, Omar Abu Layla.
Thank you so
much. First of all, now that it is the 10th anniversary of the start of the Syrian revolution and the start of the civil war, can you give us a brief overview of the situation in Syria, but especially in Deir Ezzor, in eastern Syria and northeastern Syria? Just a brief overview.
Thank you so much for having me. I do remember the moment when my brother, who was arrested since 2012 till now, we don't have any idea about him if he's alive or not. I do remember that moment when I was using my computer and he just came to me and said to me, please open the TV, there's a breaking news. And I saw like the first demonstration was in Damascus. And we were talking about other countries, Egypt, Libya, Yemen. And then the people, how they, okay, now it's our turn, now it's our time. And they decided to be clearly against this regime, Assad regime. Deir Ezzor province were in power against Assad. Deir Ezzor province, like they say they answered other province, Dar'a, Homs, Idlib, other, we are with you, and was the hugest demonstration. Deir Ezzor and Hama in one Friday in 2013, 12-13, more than 1.5 million, and all the world, I say truly, the Middle East watch it. It was like unbelievable for you when you saw those guys. People were waiting this moment to say to Assad and his regime, you have to leave the regime because you occupied the country. You don't have any democracy. You were against all the community, not only against Arabs, even against the Kurds, against the Ashuris, against the Christian. And this is the correct time. We are one community. It was a great time between 2011 till 14. And that's why it was the best spirit of the revolution before the other groups or military groups entered in the revolution, especially after 2014.
And as we know, or many people do not know, but Deir Ezzor is a very unique province in Syria. So it's, I think it's, the population is mostly Sunni Arab, and it's more tribal and it has tribal chiefs there. And recently there have been a rise in assassinations in the province, especially of tribal chiefs and of other activists. Is there any information on who do you think is behind that? Is it just a random rise in crime, or is it an actual group or a grouping of groups that have been doing those assassinations?
It's a very good question, actually. You know something important. The Ezzor community is a tribal community. I have personally with many officials, I spoke to them. When you want to work with the community in Deir Ezzor, you need to be close to them, enough to them. You need to understand them, even they are not the same community in Raqqa or in Hasaka province or even other province. Why? Because we are one community, Arab, moderate Sunnah, and they already refused or they denied all the other groups. So that means they clearly against Assad since the beginning. They are tribal community, and they fought in 2014 against Daesh. We talk before I go who was responsible on these assassinations. In 2013, exactly, when Assad was losing most of the control on Deir Ezzor province, we remember very well how Daesh or ISIS, they came from behind the revolutionaries and they opened the new battles. So they were helping Assad in somehow, okay, and killed a lot of people in Deir Ezzor. We remember the massacres. They did it against the tribal Ashir, or the tribal people in Shaitat, or tribal community in east countryside of Deir Ezzor. Exactly. We remember how many civilians in one town called Ashhel were killed by Daesh. We remember the 7 continuing months in battles against Daesh before Mosul was given free to Daesh from Maliki. We remember that. We cannot forget it. After that, the international community, including the coalition, decided to work with SDF. I have to note this, very important, had very long discussions with the FSA group from Deir Ezzor in Tanaf, in Al-Qalamun, other places. So we need you guys or groups to fight with SDF in Deir Ezzor against Daesh. So those guys or those groups didn't accept this offer from the coalition because SDF were just fighting against Daesh. And the dairies groups, they have their own line against Assad and Daesh. So you can't use us only against Daesh. We already fought them in 2014 for 8 months, and you didn't give us any support. Daesh couldn't even control the region before Al-Mosul was down, and they brought the heavy weapons and controlled Deir Ezzor back, and they did many massacres, including Shabat massacre. So that was in 2014 till 17. So Daesh came already and occupied Deir Ezzor again for 3 years, more than 3 years. In 2018, when coalition and SDF already decided to fight against Daesh, so till the last battle in Deir Ezzor in Al-Baghuz town, which is on the border with Bou Kamal, okay, everything was about fine. We don't say fine, but we expected Daesh cells will be active again, and they will attack or kill anyone who was against them or who supported the Americans or who supported the Syrian Democracy Forces or the Quds groups. We expected that. And I personally, I expect that, but not so fast. What happened now, it's not only by Daesh. This assassination is made by many cells. I tell you how. We have 2 banks of the river, on the river for Euphrates. We have the west and the east countryside. The east countryside, which is under the coalition and Syrian Democracy Forces. And the west, which is Iranian militia, Assad militia, Russians, other groups, militia under them, they are active on the other side because there's smuggling borders. So these borders between the river, many times, many of these cells already crossed to the east countryside, which is SDF and the coalition. I do believe from this, like 100% of this operation, I do believe 60% of it behind the Daesh and the Iranian militia, and 40 of it Daesh. Why? Because Iran also, they want the coalition or the Americans to be busy with this situation. They want the Quds and the Americans in trouble with the community, the tribal community as well. And this is one of their plan. Why? Because they are also busy with their project or own project on the other bank, especially between Mayadin and Bou Kamal. The Iranian already controlled the region or the place between Mayadin and Bou Kamal till Iraq, which is the important and the strategic route for them in almost Syria. This was one of their top goals in Syria. Why they are in Syria? So they making the Americans and the Quds busy with the community when there's an assassinations, and also they working on their own project. This is exactly what I personally said, and I said it before. Iranian cells mostly responsible secretly on this assassination, especially against the tribal leaders. But I have to be clear here. SDF also very irresponsible because they didn't protect them. Why? When we talk about tribal community or tribal leaders, like Mtashar al-Hifl, the top one in Al-Aqidat tribe, he is a very important man for the community in Deir Ezzor. He was killed he killed in cold blood. And till now, we don't know who killed him, why he was driving a simple car. So there's some steps should be done from the Americans or from the Quds military groups to protect those leaders. I'm talking about leaders, including or plus very high educated guys who worked with DCC, Deir Ezzor Civilian Council. Also, they were killed, just moved from a town to a town. There's a security problem in the region. We can talk more about it.
And obviously, you mentioned the Iranian militias and the Iranian presence in the region on the west bank of the river. Can you expand more on the Iranian projects that you were talking about? And also, what is the general feeling of the population there towards the Iranian groups? Is it hostile? Is it welcoming?
Absolutely, there's no welcoming for the Iranians. Because I said, or I mentioned at the beginning, people in Deir Ezzor, east-west countryside of Deir Ezzor, or all province of Deir Ezzor, they are so clear against all these militias, including the Iranians or Assad or who support Assad. The Iranian project in Deir Ezzor, it's very clear for all of us. If you ask a child, if you ask a woman, an old man, if you ask Omar, he will tell you the same answer. The Iranian plan since 2018 to control the region between Mayadin till the border with Iraq, which is the last city, Al-Bukamal city. They planned that because it's a strategic route for them to bring any kind of support, any secret movement, any thing or one between Syria and Iraq. Why Iran making that? Why are they doing that? We know very well how Iran suffering a lot. So they're trying to open another front against Americans, Israelis, other enemies against Iran in other countries. This is exactly why they choose carefully Deir Ezzor. They choose the region between Mayadin and Bukamal. And by the way, even the Russians, they are not allowed to come to this region between Mayadin and Bukamal, which is 85 kilometers, which is the top important route for them. Also, the desert behind this road, very important for them. They get in, we can just go back a bit for the last strikes from the Israelis and the Americans in Deir Ezzor. We can watch it by satellite and watch where they attack them or where they bomb them. In Al-Bukamal, exactly on the border between Bukamal and Iraq. So there's military secret routes. Why Iran use it? They need to stand in power or to stay in power to support their dictator, which is Bashar al-Assad. And they need to build the same militia which was built in Iraq. So they're planning for a new scenario in Syria, similar to the scenario in Iraq. And this is how it's clear for everyone in Deir Ezzor. Probably some people from other cities cannot understand it because they are aware of it. But in Deir Ezzor, they use the civilians as like a card, let's say it simply. How? They tell them the civilians the security issue or situation in all east countryside of Deir Ezzor. It's safe. You can come. We have schools. We have everything. But here we are. But you have to join us or give us the support. You don't need to be a Shia. You don't need to be in Iran or in a military. We need your support to have you as a community supporting us. Who is there? We talk about kids, women, old people, almost the young people from east countryside of Deir Ezzor, or which is the region controlled by Assad, Iran, and Russia, cannot be there. I repeat it for the third time. People don't deal with Assad in Deir Ezzor. People don't even think about that. And people don't trust even with any partner of Assad, including Russia and Iran. That's why we don't see young people, or we don't see any others, only women, young, and some old people. The Iranian using the civilians for like, okay, I give you what you need, but I need your support to stay longer in Deir Ezzor. And this is exactly the same scenario in Iraq. And also they have that's like long term for the future to stay longer and longer, more than anyone expect that. Yes.
And also with regards to the SDF, you mentioned it before. The SDF. So a lot of people have the perception that the SDF is, they either have the perception that it is opposed to the Assad regime or that it collaborates. But it's a bit of both. We can see, it trades oil with the Assad regime, and also in some parts of the north and northeast Syria, it has clashed with the Assad regime, and Russia has had to come to its help and to negotiate between the Assad regime and SDF. Can you expand on the dealings between the SDF and Assad? Where do you think it will go in the future?
I think I have said that many times. There's no chance for the Kurds or SDF to deal with Assad. Assad will never listen to them. Assad will never give them any rights. We do believe what the father of Bashar al-Assad did before, years ago, when he took all the rights of the Kurds. He was using them, or he put them in the prisons. He was clearly against them, okay? And even in 2004, when was a match between two teams, one team from Deir Ezzor and one team, football match, sorry, from Qamishli. So we know what happened after this match. Even Assad, Bashar al-Assad, he tried to use the tribes against the Kurds. Since 2004 till now, we are working hardly to fix the contact between the two important communities in northeast Syria. The SDF now in contact with Assad, this is clearly. And this is one of the points which which the community in Deir Ezzor can't understand them. And also the SDF can't deal with the community in Deir Ezzor. How it works? The people in Deir Ezzor, as I said at the beginning, are clearly against Assad, against Daesh or Qaeda groups, and against all the Iranian militia in Russia. So when SDF, who they controlling the east countryside of Deir Ezzor, dealing with Assad or meeting with Assad, this makes the people on the ground afraid about their life. And that's why if we do a survey, let me be honest, if we do a survey now with the community, and we put two options, coalition and the SDF, who you trust? I am pretty sure the people, they will give you 70% of them or more. We trust the coalition, okay? Why? Because SDF in contact with Assad, which he killed our civilians, which he arrested hundreds and thousands of civilians, which he displays a lot of millions. So how do you think I will trust with a military group, SDF, who are in contact or in touch with Assad every time? This is one of the points which didn't fix yet from the Kurds and Arabs, or exactly in Deir Ezzor. You cannot deal with Assad when you are controlling Deir Ezzor province or one bank of the rivers, okay? Because you didn't understand the community very well, and you didn't understand those community or those civilians or those people. They fought against Qaeda groups, they fought against Daesh, Assad, they fought against all the other military groups. So if you deal with them, you can deal alone, but don't use them as a card in your political cards. This is one of the things. So the SDF still trying to fix the situation somehow. Other problem with the SDF and the community in Deir Ezzor, we believe, and even the officials knows very well, SDF has some leaders from Qandil Mount or Kawadir Qandil. And those leaders, they have another way of thinking, how they using their strategy or thoughts on the ground, which is also always in touch or in fighting with the community. This is one of the missing points, how you do understand the community on the ground. So we do believe there's two parts in SDF. One part is a bit good and trying to help the people, stand with them, etc. The other part, which is working against the first one, and which is working against the civilians, and which is helping Assad in this way or this way, if he means that or if not. So this is just like short comment about SDF. Yeah.
Also, going back to the Iranian militias, there have been reports in recent months, I think late last year and even this year, that even the Assad regime and militias, the Iranian militias, are clashing. Why do you think that is? What's the dynamics behind it? Is the Assad regime recognizing that the Iranian militias have too much influence and power? What's going on?
Absolutely, Iran is stronger than Assad in Deir Ezzor, and I said that long time ago, and I still say it. Some militia behind Assad trying to show the Iranian militia we are there, and especially in Mayadin city, they are in this clash many times. I'm talking about it's not new for us, and it's like every day happening. But the Iranian militia is stronger than enough. They have enough military fighters. They have enough power. They have enough supporter even from out of Syria. We have to believe the Iranian have their own decision in Syria more than even the Assad. So the Assad is just like on media. I'm talking about Deir Ezzor, okay? I even have written an article for the Washington Institute about even though the Cold War between Iranian militia and the Russians. So just imagine with me, the Russians cannot be in fighting against the Iranian militia in Mayadin or Abu Kamal. That's why they just let them doing what they do. But we do understand the Russians don't accept that. And that's why the Russians, usually they are silent when we hear there's an strikes against the Iranian militia points or checkpoints or warehouses in Abu Kamal, in Mayadin, Deir Ezzor, etc. So the Russian, deeply they do, or secretly, they don't agree with the Iranian militia movements or with their projects, because they do believe the Iranian doing what the international community don't accept it. And somehow, although both of them, they are supporting Assad and his regime. So the Iranian militia groups in Deir Ezzor are strong enough. This is true, this is fact, okay? And the militia behind Assad or even Russia cannot stop them until there's a national decision to kick them out of the region. So I think it's too early to talk about this.
Yeah, it will be developing in the next few months or years. Lastly, my friend, in Germany and in Europe generally, but especially in Germany, we have seen the conviction of a former operative or operatives of the Assad regime in, I think it's the city of Koblenz. Do you think that more similar or more similar cases will be undertaken? Because in Germany and in other countries in Europe, a lot of the Syrian refugees are also not just in opposition to Assad, but also some are loyal to Assad and also former operatives. Do you think that we will see more of these cases?
I think, as I'm based in Germany or in Europe, I think the first country in Europe who leading this, the Germans, and there's another countries going the same, Holland and France. But at the same time, we have problem with the European countries like Denmark, who they do believe now the Assad regime is controlling the country, and they don't care about the refugees and their life. So about the ex or the former officers in Assad regime, who they came to Europe, and they thought they are safe enough, or there's no one will catch them or will find them, about their history, about their past. We have many of them absolutely in Europe, and they're using different ideas. But I do believe in international human organizations who they working hardly on this way. What happened in Koblenz, it's just an example. And I do believe for the next months or for the next years, we will see many officers we didn't know even, or we didn't hear, they are in Europe or in Germany, and they will be arrested by Germans, because the Germans so much carefully about those who they supported Assad. And Germans are so carefully also so supported the civilians or refugees, let's say, who they came to Europe, including Germany. They opened the door. They gave them all the rights which missed in Syria, and they said that clearly. So I do believe in the Germans, what they're doing. I trust them. I trust the judgments, and also I think for the next months we will see many of those officers, and even we didn't hear about them if they are there or not. So we will see them also soon in a prison. I think so. As in Deir Ezzor 24, we have MEMO with some international organization or human international organizations. We discussing with them about this, and we documenting some that as what happened in Northeast Syria, or even they sharing some ideas with us from other provinces in Syria.
Perfect. We look forward to see what happens. And it was very good talking to you. Thank you for joining us. And thank you very much. And
thank you so much.
Thanks.